Hello YouTube, it's John from IT Skills Academy. We continue creating this portfolio website using HTML, Tailwind CSS and PHP. In our last video we created this dashboard, or I showed you how you can be able to get this dashboard. And basically what we have in front of us is a static admin dashboard. And so in this video basically what we'll be doing is to make this whole admin dashboard dynamic. And to be able to make it dynamic, we have to use a different language, different from the one that the ones that we have been using. And so this video we will be tackling or using the language PHP. So basically PHP is a backend language, and if I may just try to explain what it does and how we'll be using it in our context here. It's like we want to have this interface, the front end side of things. We want to make that whole thing dynamic. And so what we are going to do is we are going to need something that we call a database. So this database is like a collection of related information. It's going to like house all the information that we want to be displayed on the website, or that we may need at some point. It might not be displayed, but we have it installed, and so we have a point of reference. So now that will be the database, and now we have the website. So now we want something that will help us link these two, linking the database and the website. And what will help us to do that is the PHP language. So we will be writing some codes or some scripts in PHP that will be helping us to basically get data from a database and display it on the screen. And also this gives you the opportunity of allowing a user to feed in information from the front end to the back end. And when I talk about the back end, is like the database. So you're having a situation where a person can be able to input information, and that information is stored somewhere, and that information can also be fetched from the database and displayed somewhere else for some other reasons. So basically now what we'll be doing in this specific video is I'll be introducing you to databases, how you can be able to create your database, how you can be able to connect to the database, and that will be about all. That will be about it for this specific video, because I don't want to make them to be too long. I just want to have some sort of a playlist. That way you can be able to run it bit by bit instead of overwhelming yourself with a lot of information. So basically that's what we'll be doing. And so without so much ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing that you're going to require for you to be able to work with PHP and also the database is something that we call a local server. You'll need to have some sort of a server that will help you to like locally host your website, so to speak. Because now for you to work with PHP, it's unlike HTML. You're going to require your information to be like stored somewhere, if I may put it in layman terms. So and for you to be able to achieve that, you're going to need a local server, and we have two common local servers that we have allowed, and one of it, and the one that we're going to be using in this situation, is XAMPP, although we also have WAMP. So this local server is basically going to help you to sort of work with PHP and the database, if I may put it that way in simple terms. So that way you'll be able to read and write information into your database. So by reading, this is where it will be displayed on your website, and by writing, this is where like you're feeding the information into that specific database. For that flow to happen, for that back and forth interchange of information to happen, then you need this local server. So we're just going to go direct into it, and so I'm just going to show you how you can be able to get them. So like you can just get to your browser, and sorry, you will just say sorry, this should be download XAMPP. So it should be download XAMPP, like that. You will need to go with the latest version. That way you'll be running away from a lot of issues that may come along when you use another version of XAMPP. So you still can use it, but I recommend that you go with the latest version. So here I'm selecting the very first suggestion that I have here, download XAMPP. You'll be downloading this from a website called Apache Floods. So this is the official website, where you can be able to download this XAMPP app. So the XAMPP is an easy to install Apache distribution containing MariaDB, PHP, and Parallel. Just download and start the installer. It's that easy. So this is the latest version, this one here, 8.212 as of the time I'm recording this video, and you can see they have the 64-bit. so if you're having that 2-bit, you might need to explore more options to see if we have that 2-bit. I don't know whether we have that 2-bit, but we don't have that option here. So just click on that specific button, and of course what that will do is it will help you to get the installer. So you're just going to learn the installer, and by learning the installer you will have installed the Apache, rather the XAMPP app. So I have mine already downloaded and installed. So once you have it installed, you're just going to go to your start menu, and then you go to the search, and here you can search for XAMPP. So just search for XAMPP, and if it was installed correctly, you should see it appear like this, XAMPP control panel app. So just click to open it. And once it is open, it will look something like this. So basically here we're just going to start the Apache and the MySQL. So just click on start. So sometimes you may experience these errors. Sometimes it's just something that you can easily fix, like in this case I've just clicked on it again, and even if you have these errors, and so long as these two appears in green and we have these numbers here, especially these ones, you're good to go. So you have these numbers, then you have these in green, and even if you see this in red, it's fine. But if you see some red words here, but you find like this one, we don't have this number, or you don't have this number, this one is not in green, there is a problem, and you may need to explore options of how to fix that specific problem. So we're not going to go into details of how you can fix that, but hoping that learn successfully now means that you're learning the XAMPP control panel. And what this is going to do is it's going to provide you with some options. So like If I go to my file explorer, there's this PC, then here I open the local disk C. So here I should see this specific folder called XAMPP. I should open the XAMPP, and inside the XAMPP I should see this folder called htdocs. I should open that, and I should have the project folder inside here. It is should be like that. You don't have an option. You have to put your project folder inside this specific folder, so that way now you'll be able to access it from your browser. And so for example, now as you can see, we have the project folder for this specific tutorial, the portfolio tutorial. It is appearing in this specific path. And so in that case, if I go to my browser, I should be able to access it. But before I access it, right now, if we go to just a second as I try to grab that. If we go to the project itself, in the dashboard, this is index.html. That is what we are seeing here. So if I wanted to work with PHP or write in a PHP script, then I need to change this extension, the .html. I need to change that to PHP. So how are you going to do that? You go back to your text editor here, and I'm going now to ensure that this file is not index.html, but it is index.php. So basically I'm just going to I'm just going to rename it. So call it PHP. Oh, rather should be in small letters. So PHP. You'll also notice that the icon now changes to this elephant, I think, which represents PHP. Okay, so like that. If I like, when you're working with PHP, in most cases you'll be using the MySQL database. So we have several other databases, but when you're working with PHP, you'll be working with a MySQL database. So how do you access MySQL database? This MySQL database comes with the local server that you have installed. And so when you want to access it, you're just going to go to your browser and search for a localhost /php myadmin. So this specific path that we have here. In fact, you can just say localhost php myadmin, then you press enter. So this should open your local server, or basically the database. And so when the database is open now, we can be able to manipulate it, and we can be able to so basically what we're opening is the MySQL. Okay, so when the MySQL database opens, or that platform opens, so what we'll be doing now is to create databases within it. And now within the database, we're going to have now the different tables that we need. So let me try to see what's happening here, because it should not take that long. Localhost php /php myadmin. Let me see. Could be this not learning. Okay, this is learning as it should. It's taking some time. see, stop, start again, stop, start again. So this one has to turn green. It's now yellow. So we have a problem somewhere with this, or maybe it is still taking its time. Okay, so we have that running, and so I expect these to run as well. Of course, it should not take that long. I think it's an issue on my side. And so this is it. Of course, right now we are inside this database. So let me just try to get back to what you should expect, especially when you're new or when you're opening this for the first time. So this is how it should look like. So basically it's called the PHP My Admin. You should see that there. Here we have the several databases that you'll create. You may have, in your case, only information schema, the performance schema, MySQL. You may only have that, and then of course the option for creating a new database. And so when you create a new database from here, the databases will be appearing here. So for example, I have the one for the finished project, the portfolio. So this is the database itself. As you can see here, the database, it's called portfolio, and here what we are having are the different tables that we have. And so this is what we'll be creating in this specific video. And of course, if this is something that you already know, you can skip this to concentrate with what you may want to run. Okay, so these are the different tables that you'll be creating. So how do you create a database therefore? So let me just get back here so that we don't have any database open. And on your left side here, you're going to see the option new, or the command new. So this is the one that you click to create a new database. So the first thing that you'll be required to do is to give this database a name. And so I'm going to just call it portfolio, and because we should not have databases that are sharing a name, I'm going to add tutorial. In this case, I will suggest that you go with the general SCI, although you have several other options that you can select from, but just go with the default one. And then you click on create. And so now the processing is done, and we have our database created. The database is here, but right now we don't have any tables, no tables found in this database. So you're going to see that option there. So what you're going now what you're going to do is you're now going to create those specific tables. And so you're going to see that because they almost share a name, they will be like combined into one, placed into one folder, sort of. Yeah, so that's something else that's great to notice. Then of course now here we have the option to create a new table, create a new table. And so here they are requesting you to give the table a name. We're going to start with the let's start with what? Let's start with skills. It doesn't matter. Then this skills table, it needs to have a number of columns. Of course, by default it will have one row, but you have to specify the number of columns so that it knows how to put or allocate how many columns, headings that you need, like the name, the age, the contact, like that. And so now for the rows, it will be the records. Okay, so that's how the tables work. Of course, all allowed generally, like it's going to have the column headings, that will be the columns, and then in the rows you're going to have the records. So the records now are the ones that will be feeding from the front end, okay, from the portfolio. But for the columns, they need to be specified at the very first minute. For this one, I'm just going to give it 3. I'm going to give it 3 columns. So just say okay. Or rather, in fact, they should be 4. Let me just have them as 4. Because now the first one will be for ID. Yeah, ID. So it's going to have the unique identifier, the ID. So the name is the name of the table is skills. Here you can go to even add more columns. You can put the number of columns you want added, then you just say go. But for now, let's start with what we have. So the first one should always be ID. So every table that you are creating, for you to work with them very well, always have it with IDEX. So the IDEX is the one that is going to help you to uniquely identify a record. And it also becomes very important when it comes to auto numbering, so that you don't have to number your work, but your work will be numbered as you continue, or as you feed in the records. So sorry. Something, my machine here is sort of misbehaving. So this ID, in most cases, or in all cases, it should be an integer. So you're going to give it a type of integer. The values that it requires, it doesn't require a lot of values. I'm going to give it 10 to start with. Yeah, but you have options, I think up to 255. Yeah. Then we have the default. This is like by default, should we have any record in that specific column. So you can have it as defined, you can have it as null, or current timestamp. So in that case, it will be feeding in today's date. We might be using that a lot as we continue. As defined, this is where you will want to be always starting with a specific value, like 5 being maybe the minimum, or yeah, or none. Like in this case, you're just going to say none. For correction, we will not choose anything. For attribute, just forget about it. But now here, what I need you to do is to create this AI. So this is not the artificial intelligence, this is auto increment. So this will help you to automatically number your records, and so all you just need to do is to check that specific checkbox, and that's it. So the records will be auto increased, or they'll be auto they'll be increased automatically. That's the term that I'm looking for. And so now after that, then we're going to have of course the name. This is the skill, so like the skill name. Just a minute, I try to see name, experience, and level. So name, and then here we're going to have the experience, and here we have the level, like that. So for this one, we have agreed that should be a number, that is integer. For this one, it cannot be an integer, so we just put varchar. So in that case, we can have a number or text. And then for the length, number of values for the name, maybe we can talking about names, they're not that long, so maybe you can say 100. Same to experience, it should also be the same, and the level you can also say the same. So in this case, you can put numbers or text, and it's going to accept that. So the first column by default should have an ID. So it doesn't matter how many records you have, even if it is 1, but you should have the first row, this one. being the ID, the unique identifier, and should be auto increment. And also the moment you shake this button, something else that happened is that this was given what we call a primary key. So primary key is like a unique number, okay, that will be used to uniquely identify the rest of the information. So like it is representing all the records in such a way that if we see that, then or if we have that, we can be able to have anything else that we want in that specific table. So now that we have all that done, I can scroll down here, and what I need to do is to save. So just come and save. Okay, so that is saved. If now I'll try to come back here, you're going to see the table skill is created, and we have the records, and you notice that the very first one here now has a key. This is because we said that this should be the unique identifier, so it's given that key. And then here we have, and the extra, we have the auto increment. It means that when we enter the records, they will be numbered progressively 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moving forward. Alright, so now that is done, and so that's the same way that we are going to create the other tables. So the next one that we are going to create is so you now notice that in this portfolio, in this table, we also have the new. So this option now, this command, we can use it to create a new table. Well, this one is helping you to create a new database. You notice even the icon is different. So they're now telling us that under this database, we are creating a new table, or you can be able to create a new table. So I'll just say new, and that should now give me the option of giving the table a name. Like here, I will just come and call it admin. So this basically will contain the admin login credentials. So I'm just going to say go. I don't want to add many columns because I think I just need, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, in fact I need 1. So just say 1, and then I say go. So it's going to give this table this name, and I'm also going to have an extra column. So remember, in this, while it is looking like this, these are the columns, but you're now going to have them in sort of a row. So in this, it's like you're having it in what we can call the design view. Okay, the design view. So in the design view, they will appear in like a row, but once you go now to the table view, you may call it so, then you will expect to have all these in columns. So this should be the name, and this one should be the password, and here we are going to put the email, and I also expect to be having, say, a profile picture. So I'm just going to say profile pic. So for this one, it will also take Varsha, take Varsha, take Varsha. So basically what you notice is that almost all of them are going to have a Varsha except the first one, because the first one should always be a number. So you want to lock it to a number, but when we give it the Varsha, that we mean that you can even have it in number or text. Like you can even combine the text and numbers, but when it comes to an integer, it's an integer, it's a number. right? So it should be like that. So here we're just going to also give them the same length as you should, like that. And only the first one should have the auto increment, not anything, not all of them, only the first one, that is the ID. So that's created. So I'm now going to create the tables, and I'm just going to speed it up so that way we don't waste a lot of time in creating the tables while you already understood how we are going about it. Also, I hope so. Well, now that we have all the tables that we need for the project, if there's any new table that we might require, we're just going to come and create it here. But for now, I think it's time to take it to the next level. And here, what I want to do, just a minute, I need to create the connection to that specific database so that we're able to connect the database with our portfolio website. So how we can do that is we can create a new folder here within the admin. We create a new folder. We can call it includes. This it's not necessary, but it's necessary when it comes to, or in terms of trying to have understand your content or understand your code, so that you have your pages in several folders, so that way you're able to understand which file is where. So I'm going to create a new folder called includes. This is now going to have the other files that we might not see them on the portfolio website, but they are helping us to be able to see that specific website. So one of it is the connection to the database. So I'm going to create that, and inside it I'm going to have the file. I'm going to just call it con.php. And so now in this I'm now going to write the PHP that is going to help us to connect the database with the portfolio website. So when you're writing in PHP, you have to open the PHP opening tag. So we have the angle, the less than sign, then a question mark, then the PHP. And if you're going to write any HTML or any other script that is not PHP below this, you have to close it like that. Okay, so you need to have that arrow bracket there, and there's question mark in front of it. That is if you're going to have any PHP, any language that is not PHP below that. But in our case, we don't expect to have anything other than PHP here, so I don't need to close it, or even if you close it, no problem, but you don't have to. So the first thing that I'm going to comment this. This is how you comment. You just put 2/, and here I'm going to come and say params to connect to the database. Okay, so the params to connect to the database. So these are the parameters that we need to connect to the database. So I'll first of all declare them here, and how we declare them is using the $symbol, and then the first one we are going to call it db host. So like that, db host, and the host by this time you should have an idea is the local host. So this is the one that is hosting our website, so the local host. And then the other thing that I need is the user. So I'm going to say db user. Okay, db user is equals to in this case we usually have it as root. It's always root, and don't forget to put the question mark. So this is like the username that a person will use to access the database. And of course, now talking about accessing the database, we also need the password. You can put a password that is on the database end. That is where is that? So here I think you can go to settings and put a password, so that when you're accessing these you have to put a password. But in my case it doesn't have a password, that's why we accessed it directly. So if you have any password, then you have to come and put that password here. If you don't have a password, yeah, you just leave it like that. For me, I usually don't have it with a password, so it's up to you to decide if you're going to have the password or not. Then the other thing, the other parameter is the DB name, the name of the database, and in this case we've called it portfolio underscore tutorial. Okay, so that is it. So those are the parameters that we need to connect to the database. And so now here we're going now to come and create a variable, or rather we're going to connect to the database, and we're going to write this statement. It's called mysql connect. So I'm going to say mysqli underscore connect, and this one is going to take these parameters that we have on top here, that we have declared them. So basically now we're like storing these in this specific variable. The same case to this is being stored here, these stored here, these stored here. So now we're just calling them down here. So for example here I can say now the db host comma the db user comma, rather this one should be $. Then we have the $, db password, or rather this one we forgot to have it as password. So the way you declare it here is the same way you should call it. The same name you gave it is the same name that you should use to call it. And the last one should be the database name, which is portfolio website. Let me confirm. Yeah, portfolio underscore tutorial. Yeah, it's good. So now because we will be requiring this a lot in PHP, especially when we are fetching information from the database, and also when we inputting information into the database, we will not be required to write all of this, or it's not necessary to always write all of this. And so what you can do is that you can create a variable, you can give it any name, and then you can have it now housing all this information. So for you to be able to have these, you just need to call this and you'll be getting all of this. Hoping that that is clear. Therefore, we are now going to test to see if the connection happened successfully, because now in this case, using the MySQL connect, what we are doing, this statement is specifically the one that is helping us to connect to the database, but it has to check the host, whether it is the correct one, the database, whether the database username, whether it is the correct one that we have provided, the username, the password, whether it's the correct one that we have provided, and the DB name that we are accessing, whether there exists such a database. And so if it doesn't exist, that will be an error. If it exists, then we will be connected to that specific database. So basically, this statement is helping us to connect to the database, and it is verifying with the information that we have provided. The ones that appear in green are like the credentials that we are providing to this script. That way it is able to know that whether they are the right credentials to give us the go ahead to access the database or not too. So down here now we have to come and use the if statement to check if that happened. So for example, I can just come and say if, and the condition will be if the connection did not happen, if this returned false, for example. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to have an exclamation mark, means not, and the con. So I'm now referencing this, but I'm calling it just using this single word. And now inside here I can just come and say maybe echo, or sorry, let me just say so in the code here I'm now going to say if that did not happen, if that did not happen, as you can see here, you can come and say die. So we are now killing that attempt to access the database, and so always close your lines with a semicolon. So here you can just come and say I can write any information there, that is if the connection did not happen. But if it happened, maybe here we can say else. You don't always have to put this. If it is connecting, it's connecting, but in this case we want to test whether it is connecting, so we can just come and say, for example, echo, and we can say connected success, connected successfully. Oops. Successful. Okay, that. Sometimes I look at the spelling and I'm like, is it spelled that way or not? But it's okay, you get the idea. So in my case, the editor is set to save the information automatically. In your case, you remember you always have to save. So now what we can do to test that is we can get to our browser here. When we come here and say localhost, then portfolio, then in the admin here we are going to have the includes and then the con.php, and as you can see now here it tells us connected successfully. So that means that we have been able to connect to the database. So that is the first thing that you should ensure that you do. So if we deliberately try to put a password here, in this case we already know that we don't have a password, but we attempt to put one deliberately, and then we try to connect. I'm just going to refresh. You see it gives us an error that access denied for user root and all those stories there, and it tells us that the possible issue could be in line 10. So maybe you can navigate to line 10 and tells you it is here, that the issue is here, and it's here because of these which is declared here, and because you have given the wrong thing. Okay, so if I remove these, for example, now the change is saved automatically, and then I will refresh. So now that you have provided the correct information, this is learning very well, as we would expect. Alright, so so that's how you can be able to connect, rather create a database and also connect to it. So in our next tutorial now, we'll be writing the PHP, which will help us to fetch the information from the database and also feed it into the database. So we're going to do that for the several components that we have. That's the projects, the clients, the services, the education, the experience, and all that. And it will be some repetitive tasks, so that way you'll be in a position to even understand it better, because we'll be repeating the same thing for the clients, for the portfolio, for the project, for the services, for the education, and for all of that. So it will be easier for you to understand the script, and basically we'll be dealing with what we call CRUD, that is the create, the update, and then we also have the read, and we also have the delete. So it's usually create, update, read, and delete. So that's basically what we'll be doing, so we'll be able to understand that. So the moment you understand that concept of creating, updating, reading, and deleting, then you'll be good to go when it comes to PHP, and you can be able to even advance your skills or knowledge to the next level. So thanks for watching my video up to this point. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, so that way you'll be and of course turning on the notification bell, so that way you're notified when the next episode or part is uploaded. So up until that time, see you then. Bye.